thing is
She's
gonna be
hemorrhaging.
okay.
Wait, hold on. Is that blood coming from her chest?
What?
Music.
Honey, we're gonna fix you up just fine. Don't worry.
Grey's Anatomy Season 22. Explosive premiere, major character death hints, and fan favorite ships ranked. Grey's Anatomy returns on October 9th, 2025, with its Season 22 premiere, and the drama has never been higher. Last season ended with a shocking explosion at Grey Sloan Memorial, and the new trailer shows the hospital in chaos as doctors fight to save lives. Link, Weber, Monica, and others are in immediate danger, while Miranda Bailey's fate was teased, but early images confirm she survives. Speculation is growing that Richard Weber could be the one to die. Notably absent from the trailers, Richard's possible death would be devastating, especially as the 450th milestone episode titled "We Built the City" could double as a tribute to him. Clues like the use of Dido's white flag in the trailer with the lyric, "I will go down with this ship," seem to symbolize Richard as Grey Sloan's captain. If true, it would mark the end of an era, shaking both fans and the remaining original characters, Meredith and Bailey. Meanwhile, Season 22 promises high-stakes surgeries, emotional fallout, and fractured relationships. Meredith returns to Seattle full-time, balancing Alzheimer's research and surgery. Owen and Teddy's marriage hits breaking point, while the new intern class faces fresh challenges. On a lighter note, fans are also revisiting Grey's Anatomy's most iconic romances. From Teddy and Henry's short-lived but beautiful love, to Bailey and Ben's resilient partnership, to Mark and Lexi's tragic soulmate bond, and, of course, Meredith and Derek's unforgettable love story topping the list. These ships remind us why Grey's has always been as much about the heart as the oar. With an explosive premiere, emotional stakes, and milestone celebrations, Grey's Anatomy Season 22 is set to be one of the show's most unforgettable chapters. Hey lovely viewers, welcome to our channel Grey's Anatomy Official. The 10 greatest Grey's Anatomy ships, ranked. Grey's Anatomy Season 22 is set to premiere on October 9th, 2025. From its very first episode, though, the series has been just as much a show about love, loss, and personal growth as it has been about life-or-death surgeries. Over the years, we have watched Grey Sloan Memorial navigate heartbreak, friendship, and romance against the backdrop of high-stakes operating rooms and emergency wards. It's almost impossible for an average viewer who hasn't followed the show wholly to consciously pick up the depth of all of those relationships. That's why I've put together a list of the greatest Grey's Anatomy ships, ranked. A perfect refresher for longtime fans and a quick catch-up for anyone who wants to revisit the show's most unforgettable romances. 10. Teddy and Henry. Teddy Altman, Kim Raver, and Henry Burton, Scott Foley were one of the most unexpected pairings on Grey's Anatomy, but their short-lived romance is one of the highlights of the show. When Teddy agreed to marry Henry on a whim, just so he could have her insurance and get surgery to treat his von Hippel-Lindau syndrome. What started out as a marriage of convenience for Henry quickly blossomed into a genuine friendship between these two. Honestly, Teddy really needed someone as grounded and normal as Henry to help her deal with all the chaos that surrounded her at Seattle Grace Mercy West Hospital. Unlike so many of Teddy's other relationships, Henry never wanted her to be anything but herself. She didn't have to prove her worth or shrink her ambition to be with him, and that's what made their relationship feel so real. Grey's Anatomy is known for its messy, complicated relationships. However, things between Teddy and Henry were always easy. Henry always brought out the best in the cardiothoracic surgeon and gave her the kind of safety that she had always wanted. Because their relationship was so happy, light, and carefree, Henry's sudden death remains one of the most heartbreaking moments on the show. It's a shame that we didn't get to see these two grow old with each other, because they really were perfect. 9. Bailey and Ben. Miranda Bailey, Channerda Wilson, is definitely a tough cookie to crack, but Ben Warren, Jason George, has proven time and again that he is the best man for the job. These two might just be the only couple on the show who have survived just about everything together, from traumatic hospital shootings to career shifts, health scares, and messy separations. However, the fact that they kept coming back to each other is all the proof you need to realize that they really are meant to be. These two crossed paths in Grey's Anatomy Season 6, where Ben immediately got on Bailey's nerves. However, You have to admire Ben for never flinching at Bailey's temper while continuing to respect her. What makes this ship so special is that they truly grow to understand each other. They aren't afraid to spend time apart and give each other space when life gets overwhelming. At the same time, they know exactly when to close the gap and fight for their relationship. One has to admit that this might be one of the most equal relationships on the show, because Ben and Bailey truly are partners in family and ambition. In a show where so many romances have crashed and burned, Bailey and Ben continue surviving Shondaland's worst curveballs. 8. Addison and Mark. Grey's Anatomy Season 22 is set to premiere on October 9, 2025. From its very first episode, though, the series has been just as much a show about love, loss, and personal growth as it has been about life-or-death surgeries. Over the years, we have watched Grey Sloan Memorial navigate heartbreak, friendship, and romance against the backdrop of high-stakes operating rooms and emergency wards. It's almost impossible for an average viewer who hasn't followed the show wholly to consciously pick up the depth of all of those relationships. That's why I've put together a list of the greatest Grey's Anatomy ships, ranked, a perfect refresher for longtime fans and a quick catch-up for anyone who wants to revisit the show's most unforgettable romances. 10. Teddy and Henry. Scott Foley as Henry in a hospital bed, looking sadly at Kim Raver as Teddy on Grey's Anatomy. Image via ABC. Teddy Altman, Kim Raver, and Henry Burton, Scott Foley, were one of the most unexpected pairings on Grey's Anatomy, but their short-lived romance is one of the highlights of the show. When Teddy agreed to marry Henry on a whim, just so he could have her insurance and get surgery to treat his von Hippel-Lindau syndrome. What started out as a marriage of convenience for Henry quickly blossomed into a genuine friendship between these two. Honestly, Teddy really needed someone as grounded and normal as Henry to help her deal with all the chaos that surrounded her at Seattle Grace Mercy West Hospital. Unlike so many of Teddy's other relationships, Henry never wanted her to be anything but herself. She didn't have to prove her worth or shrink her ambition to be with him, and that's what made their relationship feel so real. Grey's Anatomy is known for its messy, complicated relationships. However, things between Teddy and Henry were always easy. Henry always brought out the best in the cardiothoracic surgeon and gave her the kind of safety that she had always wanted. Because their relationship was so happy, light, and carefree, Henry's sudden death remains one of the most heartbreaking moments on the show. It's a shame that we didn't get to see these two grow old with each other, because they really were perfect. 9. Bailey and Ben. Bailey and Ben smiling in Grey's Anatomy. Image via ABC. Miranda Bailey, Channerda Wilson, is definitely a tough cookie to crack, but Ben Warren, Jason George, has proven time and again that he is the best man for the job. These two might just be the only couple on the show who have survived just about everything together, from traumatic hospital shootings to career shifts, health scares, and messy separations. However, the fact that they kept coming back to each other is all the proof you need to realize that they really are meant to be. These two crossed paths in Grey's Anatomy Season 6, where Ben immediately got on Bailey's nerves. However, you have to admire Ben for never flinching at Bailey's temper while continuing to respect her. What makes this ship so special is that they truly grow to understand each other. They aren't afraid to spend time apart and give each other space when life gets overwhelming. At the same time, they know exactly when to close the gap and fight for their relationship. One has to admit that this might be one of the most equal relationships on the show, because Ben and Bailey truly are partners in family and ambition. In a show where so many romances have crashed and burned, Bailey and Ben continue surviving Shondaland's worst curveballs. 8. Addison and Mark. Addison leans toward Mark, who is sitting at a bar in Grey's Anatomy. Image via ABC. This might be a bit of a controversial take, but Mark Sloan, Eric Dane, and Addison Montgomery, Kate Walsh, could have been the perfect endgame. There's no denying that their relationship starts on the worst note when Derek, Patrick Dempsey, catches them cheating with each other. However, what's interesting is how Mark and Addison's relationship evolved after the initial fallout. When Derek left for Seattle, they lived together for 2 months, and Addison even became pregnant with Mark's baby. Addison eventually chose to have an abortion and followed Derek to Seattle, but that's when Mark truly realized that he loved her. When the plastic surgeon arrived at Seattle Grace, he wasn't chasing a better job. He was there to win Addison back and prove himself worthy of her. Mark even went without sex for 60 days just to show Addie that he didn't want to be with anyone but her. Sadly, though, their timing was just never right. Not just that, but Addison and Mark could never really let go of the guilt they felt for betraying Derek. Still, you can't deny that Mark was a different man with Addison, and they were always on the same professional and emotional playing field. If Walsh's character hadn't left for Los Angeles to join private practice, Addison and Mark might have had a real shot. 7. Catherine and Richard Weber, James Pickens Jr., has been pretty unlucky in love, but the show finally gave him a sense of stability in his relationship with Catherine Fox, Debbie Allen. Catherine first appeared on Grey's Anatomy Season 8, when Richard was slowly losing his wife, Adele Loretta Devine, to Alzheimer's. Now, his dynamic with Catherine was flirty right from the start, but the chief wanted to do right by his wife, even if she had completely forgotten who he was. In fact, when Adele passed away, Weber did everything in his power to push Catherine away. However, she stood by his side, and he eventually had to give in to his feelings for her. What makes this ship so special is that neither one of them was actively looking to fall in love. Richard had just about had enough of grand romances, and Catherine was more than happy to dedicate herself to her career. Now, since they met as two equally brilliant surgeons with complicated pasts, it's no surprise that they ended up finding solace in each other. Richard and Catherine's relationship is fiery and flawed because both of them are stubborn enough to drive the other mad. Then again, though, they always know when to apologize and fight for their marriage, and that is what has helped them deal with challenges such as Richard's alcoholism, Catherine's cancer diagnosis, and the constant professional power struggles. This ship is a refreshing contrast to Grey's Anatomy's typically younger romance, and proves that passion doesn't have to fade with age. 6. Christina and Burke. Christina Young, Sandra Oh, remains a Grey's Anatomy fan favorite years after her exit from the show. Her unapologetic ambition and brutal honesty made her one of the most compelling characters on the show. It was always evident that Christina lived for the oar, and if there was ever a man who understood what her career meant to her, it was Preston Burke, Isaiah Washington. Christina and Burke's relationship started on a professional note, but even then, Burke recognized and respected Christina's brilliance. Despite Burke being Christina's senior, they shared the same kind of love and obsession for cardiothoracic surgery, and their connection in the oar eventually turned into one of the most memorable relationships on the show. Of course, their love wasn't simple, and their power imbalance definitely came into play now and then, like that time Burke made Christina cover for him when he developed a hand tremor. Some argue that Burke wanted Christina to change for him, especially with that whole wedding storyline. However, the fact that he decided to walk away on their wedding day goes to show that he couldn't keep asking Christina to give up so much of herself to be with him. These two did get their full circle moment, though, when Burke returned to offer Christina his research institute in Zurich in Season 10. Not just that, but he also used the opportunity to tell her that his feelings for her never truly went away. Christina's relationship with Burke was passionate, complicated, and infuriating at times, but it helped shape her into the world-class surgeon that she is. 5. Arizona and Callie. Callie Torres, Sarah Ramirez, and Arizona Robbins, Jessica Capshaw, were the first actual LGBTQ+ couple on Grey's Anatomy, and shared a natural chemistry that made them instant fan favorites. The two met right after Erica Hahn Brooke Smith left Callie high and dry, and from their very first kiss in the bathroom at Joe's bar, you couldn't help but root for them. Now, Callie and Arizona's journey was anything but smooth. These two loved each other, but communication wasn't exactly their strongest suit. Whether it was their disagreement over wanting children or Arizona's objection to Mark and Callie's extremely close friendship, their relationship was a roller coaster ride. However, their love always outlasted every hurdle that came their way. Calzona's beautiful wedding, officiated by Bailey, with Mark walking Callie down the aisle, remains one of the most heartfelt moments on the show. However, love is never simple on Grey's Anatomy, and Calzona was never really the same after the plane crash in Season 8. Arizona cheating on Callie with Lauren, Hillary Burton Morgan, was the final nail in the coffin, because even therapy couldn't mend their broken dynamic after that. What followed was an ugly custody battle over Sophia, Eva Ariel Binder, one of the most painful storylines for these two women who once meant everything to each other. In the end, however, Calzona's story came full circle in season 14 when Arizona decided to move to New York for Sophia, and an open-ended text from a newly single Callie hinted at the possibility of them getting back together. It wasn't the picture-perfect ending that fans had envisioned for the ship, but it was good enough. 4. Joe and Alex Karev, Justin Chambers, had a string of complicated, failed romances on Grey's Anatomy. Many believe that his relationship with Izzy, Katherine Heigl, has always been the great love of Alex's life. But what he shared with Joe, Camilla Luddington, was far more special than that. Alex easily had one of the greatest redemption arcs on the show, and his relationship with Joe had a lot to do with that. Their connection was a slow burn, but as two damaged people with very similar childhood traumas, it was only natural for them to develop a deep friendship. Joe was one of the very few people Alex could open up to without the fear of being judged. However, in true Evil Spawn fashion, he tried his best to avoid any feelings he had for her. When these two finally came clean about their love for each other, though, their relationship grew into one of Grey's Anatomy's greatest, most stable romances. What's so great about Joe is that she accepted Alex for who he was, and in turn, that inspired him to want to be better for her. Their journey obviously came with its ups and downs, so when they got married, I just wanted them to live happily ever after. Unfortunately, that never happened since Izzy eventually came back into Alex's life, and he chose to leave Joe to be with her and raise their secret kids. This storyline felt like a gut punch since it was so out of character for Alex, especially after he had fought so hard to build a safe, loving life with Joe. The fact that they didn't even say goodbye to each other in person feels like a total disservice to their epic love story, and that really makes me believe Jolex is the ship that got away. 3. April and Jackson Avery, Jesse Williams, and April Kepner's Sarah Drew story will go down in history as one of the greatest friends-to-lovers arcs of all time. There's no denying that their relationship was a slow burn, but it was so worth the wait. When these two first arrived at Seattle Grace Mercy West in Season 6, there was nothing even remotely romantic about their dynamic. If anything, they were close friends who just had plenty of shared losses to bond over. Season 7 continued this dynamic as the two moved into Meredith's house and slowly started growing closer as friends. However, since Jackson was dating Lexi Kyler Lee at the time, his connection with April remained strictly platonic. Things changed by the end of Season 8 when April sleeps with Jackson. What was meant to be a casual one-time hookup obviously turned into something much deeper, but their differences in faith and a pregnancy scare, and the heartbreaking death of their son, Samuel, tore their marriage apart. Despite the very obvious love these two had for each other, their timing just never seemed to work out. Thankfully, though, April got their fairy tale ending in the end when April decided to follow Jackson to Boston as he ran his family's foundation. The Grey's Anatomy Season 18 finale was the perfect closure for the fans who finally got to see Jackson and April back together as they shared a much-awaited kiss in the elevator. 2. Lexi and Mark and Lexi were another completely unexpected pairing in Grey's Anatomy, but once they were together, they just made sense. Of course, their relationship was complicated from the start, with the major age gap and the fact that Derek did not want his sister-in-law sleeping with his best friend. However, soon enough, everyone started to realize that their connection went far beyond sexual attraction. Mark was a different man with Addison, but he went through a total transformation with Lexi. Being with Lexi made Mark want to leave his philandering ways and settle down for good. However, Lexi was still a young resident at the time, and she just wasn't ready for that kind of commitment, despite being hopelessly in love with him. From the arrival of Mark's pregnant teenage daughter, Sloane Laven Rambin, to Callie and Mark having a baby together, Lexi was constantly overwhelmed by the different trajectories they were on. There's no denying that these two hurt each other more than once. They failed to communicate their feelings for each other, moved on with other people, and tried to let each other go when they knew they didn't really want to. It's a shame that we barely get to see Mark and Lexi as a couple before they meet their tragic end following the plane crash in Season 8. However, in those final moments, Mark and Lexi finally come clean about their feelings and admit that they are each other's great loves. Their romance remains one of the most romantic yet heartbreaking storylines in Grey's Anatomy. 1. Meredith and Derek. Meredith Grey, Ellen Pompeo, and Derek Shepherd's love story is the emotional backbone of Grey's Anatomy. Their seemingly casual one-night stand in Season 1 evolved into one of TV's most iconic relationships. The chemistry between these two was downright magnetic from the start. Their playful banter and intense pull toward each other were the heart of the show in its early seasons. Of course, it all came crashing down in the Season 1 finale when Addison came to town and revealed that Derek had been married to her all along. This led to a long, heartbreaking push-and-pull dynamic where Meredith tried to get over each other while knowing that it was impossible to do so. Once they finally got together, though, their relationship matured beautifully. Sure, their ambitions often collided with each other, and that clinical trial arc, along with Zola's adoption, nearly destroyed their marriage. However, what mattered was that they kept choosing each other through all of it. Derek helped Meredith get over her abandonment issues, and Meredith taught him patience and humility in turn. Their love story wasn't perfect, but it changed both of them for the better. It's a shame that by the time they resolved the issues in their marriage and Derek headed home to be with his family, he was met with the tragic accident that took his life. Meredith eventually moved on and opened herself up to love again, but it's obvious that no one else can ever live up to what she had with Derek. Is Weber dying in Grey's Anatomy Season 22? ABC drops clues hard to ignore. Grey's Anatomy Season 21's cliffhanger ending setup Link as the character most in danger from Grey Sloane's explosion, but several clues have appeared about Richard possibly dying, especially in the context of what's to come after Grey's Anatomy Season 22's premiere. The explosion came as a shock after the hostage situation had already been resolved in Season 21's finale. With several characters unaccounted for or seen in the vicinity of the floor in Grey's Anatomy Season 21's ending, plenty could be in mortal danger. Grey's Anatomy Season 22's premiere will inevitably have to address the explosion's aftermath, but the possibility that it might be an original character to die is supported by clues in the trailer and beyond. Grey's Anatomy clues that Richard is dying in Season 22 explained. Grey's Anatomy Season 21's ending didn't explicitly highlight how Richard could be in danger, but the closer we get to Season 22's premiere date, the more we get new information. Richard notably doesn't appear in Grey's Anatomy Season 22's teaser trailer, nor its full version. However, there are more worrisome clues that point to his death being likely to happen. Songs always meant a great deal in the context of the medical drama, with only one Grey's Anatomy episode not sharing a title with a song. A cover of White Flag by Dido can be heard in the trailer, which ends with one specific line from the song, "I will go down with this ship." Ever since Grey's Anatomy's beginning, Richard Weber could be likened to the captain of Grey Sloane Memorial, having been its chief for years and its residency director too. The explosion being perceived as Grey Sloane sinking, and Richard being its honorary captain, can work as a metaphor hinting at Richard suffering the hospital's same fate. Grey's Anatomy's 450th episode, which coincides with Season 22, Episode 2, is titled We Built This City, hinting at the original Grey's Anatomy characters who built Grey Sloane and the drama. Its synopsis explicitly mentioning hospital renovations could be willfully concealing moving on after a key character's death, with his funeral potentially happening in that episode perfectly fitting the bill. Why Richard dying makes the most sense in Grey's Anatomy Season 22. Every milestone episode in Grey's Anatomy included an important event, life-changing for its characters or Grey Sloane itself. Episode 400 notably involved the residency program being shut down. Grey's Anatomy's 450th episode, taking place after Season 22's premiere, would let it take its time to address the main character's death and move on with a funeral the next episode. Grey's Anatomy not killing major characters off for 4 years made it imperative that someone important dies in Season 22, and Richard would be the perfect character to die this close to Grey's Anatomy's 450th episode. Setting up the demise of an original Grey's Anatomy character would especially make the milestone episode about Grey Sloane and the show simultaneously. Among the remaining original characters, Richard's would be the death that makes the most sense. Bailey or Meredith's storylines still have much to say. Moreover, Grey's Anatomy Season 22's trailer showcased the key reactions of characters important to Richard by showing Catherine asking about fatalities and Amelia, Dagu, and Meredith being distraught, making Richard's death the only one that works. With only 3 remaining original characters, Grey's Anatomy might nevertheless be unwilling to kill off one of them just to shock viewers, making Richard's death far-fetched, no matter how many clues Season 22's trailer effectively dropped. Even without ridding the medical drama of its longest-serving doctors, Grey's Anatomy still needs to kill off someone consequential after Season 22's high-octane trailer. According to Grey's Anatomy Season 22's confirmed cast, the onus to break the medical drama's recent trend of not killing characters will seemingly fall on Monica Beltran, as Natalie Morales isn't among the confirmed cast to return for Season 22. With Amelia and Winston both being close to her, their reactions in the trailer would also fit such a development. Despite being more consequential than that of Mika's sister, Monica's death still doesn't hold a candle to Richard's, which would affect everyone who ever walked through Grey Sloan Memorial's halls. Her death is also completely off base in light of some of the clues from Grey's Anatomy Season 22's trailer, making some of the teaser's choices puzzling in hindsight. How Richard's death impacts the future of Grey's Anatomy. Killing Richard in Grey's Anatomy Season 22 would be so unexpectedly shocking to make the medical drama mirror its golden years. Indeed, with everyone expecting Link to die after Season 21's ending clearly established his whereabouts, Richard's death would subvert expectations and still be central enough to have ramifications for several characters in the drama. Richard's death in Grey's Anatomy Season 22 would effectively mark the end of an era. The character taught all of Grey Sloan Memorial's interns, shaping more than just those in Meredith's class. His death would also be extremely heavy on the other Grey's Anatomy original characters, his mates Bailey and Meredith. In short, Richard's death could easily be the one to have the biggest impact among all those likely in terms of shock value, importance, and lasting changes to the medical drama as a result. It would reduce the ranks of its original characters and set up Grey's Anatomy Season 22 to be something unexpected and unlike anything before. Grey's Anatomy Season 22 premieres on ABC at 10 p.m. Eastern Time on Thursday, October 9, 2025. Enjoy Screen Rant's primetime coverage? Click below to sign up for our weekly Network TV newsletter. Make sure to check Network TV in your preferences and get the inside scoop from actors and showrunners on your favorite series. Grey's Anatomy Season 22 trailer previews life or death stakes at Grey Sloan Memorial. The official trailer for Grey's Anatomy Season 22 has dropped, teasing an explosive return for TV's longest-running medical drama. When the series premieres Thursday, October 9th on ABC, Grey Sloan Memorial is in shambles following last season's catastrophic explosion that left doctors and patients fighting for their lives. The new trailer opens moments after the blast, showing the hospital engulfed in chaos as the doctors scramble to find survivors. Expectant father Link, Weber, Monica, Jules, and Lucas are among those in immediate danger, while the fate of beloved surgeon Miranda Bailey remains uncertain, although first-look images already spoiled that she's fine. The upcoming season promises a blend of high-intensity medical emergencies and emotional fallout as Grey Sloan's staff begins the long road to recovery. Amid the wreckage, hope and resilience emerge as recurring themes, with each doctor confronting their own struggles to rebuild, both professionally and personally. Meredith Grey is back in Seattle full-time, balancing her Alzheimer's research with time in the OR. Owen and Teddy's fractured marriage reaches a breaking point, forcing them to work together despite their separation. Meanwhile, residents Lucas and Simone face complicated emotions after her connection with newcomer Wes Bryant, played by Trevor Jackson, adds a new layer of tension. Returning cast members include Ellen Pompeo, Chandra Wilson, James Pickens Jr., Kevin McKidd, Kim Raver, Katerina Scorsone, Chris Carmack, Camilla Luddington, Alexis Floyd, Anthony Hill, and Scott Speedman. Season 22 will consist of 18 episodes, beginning with Only the Strong Survive and followed by We Built This City. The second episode, directed by Kevin McKidd, focuses on the first day of surgical rotations as the team juggles hospital renovations and emotional recovery. New images from the season confirm that Bailey appears to have survived the explosion, while Jackson's character brings a fresh perspective to Grey Sloan. Still, not everyone will make it out unscathed, setting up one of the show's most emotional chapters yet. Eric Dane reveals horrifying reason he missed Emmy's Grey's Anatomy reunion. The Euphoria star was notably absent from the 2025 Emmy Awards after his ALS diagnosis. Eric Dane has finally addressed why he missed the Grey's Anatomy reunion at this year's Emmy Awards, and the reason is far more serious than fans realized. Speaking to the Washington Post on Thursday, October 2nd, Dane, who famously portrayed Mark Sloan aka McSteamy on the hit medical drama, revealed he missed the milestone moment because of a nasty fall that sent him to the hospital. ALS is a nasty disease, said the 52-year-old actor, who announced his diagnosis with amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, ALS, in April. So I was in the hospital during the Emmys getting stitches put in my head. The Euphoria star was set to make his first major appearance in months at the 77th Annual Awards Ceremony in Los Angeles on September 14th to present alongside his co-star Jesse Williams. Dame revealed he was really upset to miss the reunion but admitted, "There was nothing I could do about it." Since sharing his diagnosis, Dane has become an advocate for ALS awareness and research. Last week, he joined nonprofit I Am ALS in Washington, D.C. to push for the reauthorization of the ACT for ALS law. That's why Act for ALS is so great, and it's because it broadens the access for everybody, Dane told Representative Frank Pallone during their meeting. Shows premiering and returning this week, from 911 Nashville to Grey's Anatomy. Also on TV and streaming this week are the Victoria Beckham Netflix documentary, as well as ones on Saquon Barkley and Ozzy Osbourne. All TV is officially back in session. After the summer break, some of your favorite shows on television right now, like those from the One Chicago franchise or Law & Order, have already made their comebacks. Chicago Fire, Chicago Med, and Chicago PD all came back for new seasons on October 1st, while Law & Order premiered its milestone 25th season on September 25th and Law & Order, SVU premiered its 27th the very night. Still, there are plenty more shows to go. From highly anticipated premieres to long-awaited returns, plus a few exciting documentaries. Here's what you can catch on TV and streaming this week. Thanks for watching this videos. Please hit the subscribe button and give this